and Nicole Coretta, Leather Stocking Region Director. Thank you. As you have questions that come up, please put them in the chat. We'll have about a 35-minute presentation, and then we'll be able to take questions in the chat with our presenters. So I will turn it over to our presenters and enjoy your presentation.
And Patty, I'm just going to remind everybody for this presentation, you can have your cameras off, which is fantastic. We're going to keep our speakers on camera, and we're going to use that chat box for questions, as Jackie said. So if I turn your video off, please take no offense. We're just going to focus on our presenters. Thanks so much. Patty?
Thank you, Kyle. And it's a pleasure to be here tonight as part of the field team to present our webinar, and the PTA Year Strong, start the next year even stronger, joined by Jerry, Beth, and Nicole from our field team. We are going to start tonight's presentation, as I like to start all of our presentations, talking about the New York State PTA mission. PTA is a powerful voice for all children, a relevant resource for families and communities, and a strong advocate for the education and well-being of every child. And we like to start this way because really this is our mission that we have developed as an association, and it is the mission that we've reported as part of our 501c3 tax exempt designation. So it's important on two ways for us to be honoring our mission and making sure that's the focus of our work. So we've divided our presentation into three parts. We have the end of the year to-do list, then we'll move on to our preparation for 22-23, and then our final section will be transitioning from 21-22 to 22-23. So we're all going to join in on the presentation, and as we noted, we'll take questions at the end. So please feel free, as soon as a question comes up, to put it in the chat box. So as the end of the year is starting to approach, here are some of the things that are on your to-do list.
So first, we'll go into nominations and elections. And always, we're going to start with referring to your bylaws. Your bylaws are always the number one thing to go to. And in your bylaws, you'll see that you'll go to who is on your nominating committee, how many people, and when your elections take place, and how many weeks prior to your election do you have to share your slate with your membership. And if your nominating committee is not already in place, then it's never too late to start. And also, if you need any help with all these things, your RDs are there in place for you to help you.
Thanks, Beth. And there's also a great webinar that was done by the leadership development team on nominations and elections. So you can check that out on the webinar list as well. And we have the link further on in this presentation to all of the leadership training workshops and webinars that are recorded. I'm going to speak a little bit about the audit committee. Also, in your bylaws, it will document how and when you should, or how many people should be on your audit committee. And I'm a firm believer in it is never too early to appoint your audit committee. I'm recommending 2 units to appoint your audit committee at the beginning of the year. That's when you have your most enthusiastic volunteers and members coming to your meetings. So why not get somebody who wants to do something right away at the beginning of the year so they can spend the whole year familiarizing themselves with the work of what's happening with the Treasury and the financial reports. That'll just make doing the audit that much easier. They can also serve as your reconcilers, and we're asking, and as part of our insurance, to maintain our insurance policy, we are required to do monthly reconciliations. So members of the audit committee could be those people for you as well. And so that's like, you know, double duty for somebody, but it's great for your unit. And again, that helps them to stay on track and up to date on everything that's been happening.
And also your annual meeting, you'll also refer to your bylaws for the month that it'll be held. Some will be held in May, June, and also just to let everybody know, it's not a silly question if you don't have your bylaws. So you can always go to your bylaws chair or your RD for a copy of your bylaws. So you always at your annual meeting want to have a mix of business and celebration. We always have so many awards that we want to share with all of our leaders that are doing so much great work throughout the year. But you want to also mix that with business that you've also done too. So your audit also will be presented at the end of the year, and also talking about membership and maybe goals that you'll have for the end of the year and the election of officers.
And it's a great opportunity to do your installation of officers. So some people have their election in a separate time than the annual meeting and install their officers immediately, but it's also great to save your installation to this annual meeting where you invite all your members, and it's really a way to honor both the outgoing officers and the incoming officers. Having end of the year celebrations as part of your annual meeting, of course, will probably generate some expenses as well as field days and other end of the year activities that you have in your unit. So really it is important that all of the officers and chair people are making sure that they get all their expenses and invoices are submitted, so the treasurer has plenty of time to prepare the final reports and to prepare for the audit. So again, our fiscal year ends June 30th. So we really want to try to tie up as many loose ends as we can by June 30th. And that way, whether there is a treasurer transition or not, that audit will have to take place. And so that's something that can be done in the July or August timeframe. We want to make sure that the audit report is ready for the first meeting of the upcoming year. Also, since your current budget that is approved the approval of that ends with the fiscal year on June 30th, and your new budget most likely would not be presented until September, we have to account for the time frame from July 1st to your first meeting when the budget is actually approved by your membership. So it's up to you as a unit. The executive committee or the board can work together to decide which option that they would do. They can either create a contingent budget, which will be shown to the board, and the board will approve. Again, it's almost like a practice or a rough draft of the budget to use as authorization to take care of any expenses that happen from July 1 until that budget is approved at the first meeting of the year. So that's option one, a contingent budget. And the other option is to just create a spending plan. So again, the executive committee in looking at the expenses that they normally have in the summer, expenses for maybe the back to school picnic, your membership table that you're going to have maybe at a local farmer's market, and you might need supplies for that. Whatever expenses you have for that can be lumped into a spending plan so that the executive committee can ask for X amount of dollars. And I always suggest to add maybe a little on for a cushion in case something comes up. They can ask for approval of that spending plan, and they have, again, that amount to spend and authorize their board members and committee members to spend until the first meeting of the year when the budget is approved. Just a little note about the contingent budget. It can be changed and amended. It can be changed and updated before at the first meeting when it's approved, in case, again, things have come up over July, August that you need to add to your budget. So, but something has to be in place to allow for approved expenses.
And then there's the insurance. We want to make sure that you sign and submit policy documents and the premium payment to AIM. Insurance is so important. We want to make sure that you're looking for the insurance. It's going to come in May. And insurance will cover you for injury, social media, money, and much, much more. Your unit needs to make sure that they do it sooner rather than later. Sometimes units feel that they can wait. If they wait, then they're not insured. And this year, we're having more coverage, and Patty will speak to that.
Thanks, Beth. Yes, so we have been working with AIM Insurance to upgrade the policies that we are offering as the basic policy to all of our units. So we are really pleased to announce that in the new policy, every unit individually will have $1 million of liability coverage for their directors and officers insurance. Currently, we have $5 million for all 1,400 of our units to share across the state. So we felt that that really was not enough, because if once the $5 million ran out, if somebody else had a claim, we weren't going to be able to honor that. So we really felt it's more important for the units to have control over that liability. So we have that happening. We are going to be adding also the hired hired and auto insurance rider. It's a small rider that we introduced this year as an extra. We're just going to be including that. It's hired non-owned auto, sorry. I had a little glitch right there. So we're going to be adding that on as well. So there is going to be an increase in the policy premium as a result of some of these things, as well as just the general increase in insurance. Many of you have probably seen that with your own personal policies. So for the individual policies that previously were $300, they'll be increased to $350. And then the SEPSA and SEPTA premiums that were $100 will be increased to $120. In addition to that, we have asked AIM as of once the policies go out to you on May 1st, we are going to be having a web chat style night where you can come on, and we will have representatives from the AIM company also to answer questions on how to make sure that you're getting the best policy that you need for your unit. So there are some add-ons that you can do. You can increase your liability. You can increase what you have for social media protection, all of those things. So look for that. There will be a letter coming out about the increase, and then there will be information about the webinar. And we really hope everybody joins to get the best information they can from AIM.
I'm Jerry, and I'm gonna give the last part of the to-do list, which is attending your region spring conference. Just as you have an annual meeting and an election meeting, we also do on the regions, and these conferences are held in May and June, depending on the scheduling by the region director. And at the meetings, we will elect our region officers, and the RD will give the annual report as to all that had gone on in the region. The treasurer will give the treasurer's report, just as your meetings go. There will be a keynote speaker or a presentation. And then also they have a vendors, which is all the financial fundraising vendors or book fairs. They'll have all different vendors that are there, and you can walk around and get information about it. And then we also held workshops and other trainings like officer training. It's a great place to meet and network with other local leaders. And a lot of times they celebrate the award winners for membership or PARP or the student Jenkins or anything like that. Does anybody else have anything to add to that?
I just want to mention about the awards that we have quite a few awards that are available through New York State. They're all detailed on the website, so I encourage everybody to check them out. Some of them are very simple and inexpensive, like the Advocate in Action Award that you can award to some of your key volunteers. You can purchase just the certificate to go along with that, all the way up to, again, the honorary life memberships that we offer that help to support our scholarship and our teacher fellowship funds, as well as the distinguished service and all other types. So we really encourage everybody to check those out as well. So that's our end of the year to-do list. And now we are going to move on to preparing for the upcoming year.
Hi, everyone. As we prepare for the 22-23 new PTA year, it is super, super important that you update your elected officers in Member Hub. We send out all kinds of information throughout the year using that system. And if you're not updated, you won't get it. We send out information regarding insurance, webinars, all kinds of manner of things. And you also want to make sure that when you update your officers in Member Hub, that you update them as site administrators if they need that access, so that they can contact your members using that very convenient system.
I guess my turn is next. Thanks, Nicole. Another thing that it's time to do is to prepare for your 990 informational report. So as we stated earlier, we are 501c3 associations, and that's been granted to us by the federal government. And so we need to let them know that we are still continuing to operate as a 501c3 nonprofit. And the way we do that is by reporting our revenue to the IRS through the 990 report. So everybody is required, again, to do the 990 report, and there are various types of that form. And for the most part, most of our units that have under $50,000 in gross revenues, that means all the money that you took in before you took away any expenses. If you were under the $50,000, you can file the 990 short form, the 990N. It used to be like a postcard, and it sort of does look like a postcard when it's sent back to you. So that's a very simple form. It just asks for a little bit of information about who's your key officer and whether you're still continuing as an association. And then finally, you're just, signing off that, yes, you have under $50,000 in gross revenues. If you are over the $50,000 mark, you will have to file the 990 EZ, and that involves a couple of extra schedules too, the Schedule A and sometimes the Schedule E. Again, they're very manageable, and they're something a volunteer can do, but all of our region treasurers and myself, we're here to help with that. Another thing that you can do is, if you have to file the EZ, is just look at last year's. If you don't have a copy of last year's, we can pull them from the IRS website as well. So because you are with the 990
What is happening?
with the 990 EZ, you have to kind of talk about your previous year's history. So we have those two reports are the two main that our units are filing. The portal for that will open on July 1st. The deadline to report is November 15th. So you have that stretch of time. Beginning July 1st, there and abouts, New York State PTA, on behalf of all our units, contracts with the file990.org organization. So they will be sending you reminders. And again, that's what's great about having your officers updated right away in Member Hub, because we'll be able to provide them with the most current officers. So you will receive that link in an email from file990.org. And you can just, again, start clicking away and confirming information, and then check the right boxes, hit submit. You're good. You will get a notice that your form has been accepted, and then you'll get a notice that it's been approved. And that's important for everybody. If we need to do this on an annual basis, if it's not done for 3 consecutive years, your status as a nonprofit will be revoked. And we don't want that to happen to anybody. So we're here to help, again, with that filing.
So Patty, if you didn't do that last year, then you should contact the.
So yes, you have the opportunity, if you normally file the 990N and that's what you're eligible for, you can go on and file the previous years. You must do the oldest one first. And we can, if that is your situation, I urge you to reach out to your either region director, your region treasurer, or the New York State PTA office. Dana Welch is a great resource there, or myself, and we can help walk you through it. That's the great part about Zoom. A lot of times we'll just get on a Zoom with somebody and kind of help them through it. So again, if you have missed a postcard filing, we can help you with that. If you've missed the EZ filing, there's more than likely going to be a fine, a penalty for that. Again, if you get that notice, we can help with that. You have the option to try to protest it in a sense, if there's a good reason why it was filed late. So all of those things, please don't let it sit. Contact us. We will help whatever it is to kind of right the ship. The IRS is really not looking to penalize us, to be perfectly honest. They just want to know that we're still operating as a nonprofit. And so this is the way we do that.
Thank you, Patty. So to prepare for next year, we have so much training. As you see with tonight, we have these webinars, and we've had them all through the year. We're going to have them in the summer. We have our great summer leadership conference, and we have training for officers throughout the year. We have it all on our website. Seek those opportunities for training for your officers and for all the chairmen. There's region training, there's state training, and there's also national training. There's training that you could see that's been recorded. There's websites that on there that have DEI kits, membership kits. There are podcasts. We have so much training available. We do not want you to reinvent the wheel. We just want to give you everything that we have. We have so much stuff for membership, and we want you to really succeed as officers. Patty?
Sherry, did you want to share anything more, or are you good?
Just reiterate that there are so many webinars on the New York State PTA website and different things on the national website and if you can't find what you're looking for, contact your region director and they can try and find it for you, or maybe set something up through New York State to do the next webinar.
Thank you. And we're all learning and taking training, so we can be the trainer at each meeting. At each meeting, we can have a brief training. So if everybody all of your officers each take a training, they can share that with the other officers or the other board members. So again, they can be short. No, training doesn't have to last for hours. So again, take advantage of the opportunity of our own local experts. And then we are most thrilled as New York State PTA to announce that we are back live for our summer leadership conference. We have had 2 years of virtual experiences in the summer, which have been great. But I think all of us will agree that it will be great to be getting back together in person. So we have set the date, July 16th to 17th. It will be at the Desmond Hotel, which is in Albany. And the theme, as you can see, is circled around the Wizard of Oz. There's no place like PTA. So please be on the lookout for the final details, the workshop list, whatever the fee will be to attend. Again, basically it will arrive by lunchtime on Saturday, July 16th. We'll do several sessions of workshops and group activities, a lot of networking, and then we'll be all ready to depart by lunch on Sunday, July 17th.
And Patty, we can also put these expenses in our budget, right?
Absolutely. Everybody's budget, once you create your budgets, should always include lines for leadership development. That's what training is about. It should include connection to your region, also consider training and leadership development to attend your region events. We often talk about the work that we do as PTA and that everything should be for our children, and that's very true, but there's different ways to deliver that to our children, and we need to have strong leaders to keep our PTAs going so that we can all help our children. So again, it may not be direct, but it certainly has the right effect. We need strong leaders to keep our PTAs going, and so training is essential.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about meeting with the outgoing and incoming executive committee and the elected officials as we kind of move through this. You want to know who are the key individuals in your district. And by this, I mean, know who your superintendent is, know who your principals are, know who you need to contact for various things. One of my very favorite stories is that my elementary school kept getting locked out of our portion of the district website. And so we would often have outdated information. When I became president, I said, holy cannoli, we got to figure this out. We got to figure out a way that we can stop getting locked out. Turns out there's a person that does that. His name is CJ. He's a very nice man. And what you need to do is contact him. So now in all of our transitions, when we move to different officers, we mention CJ and letting him know that you've now taken over and you need a password to access the website. So we don't have any outdated information anymore. You're also going to want to know who's at your region. So you're going to want to know your region director, your region treasurer, your region bylaws chair, and you're going to also want to know their state counterparts. So you're going to want to know your state treasurer, because I know I'm going to pick on Patty for a second. I know that a bunch of our units have reached out to Patty very recently, just about various kind of financial things that come up. So you're going to want to know, because they're the experts in what you need to know. So know who they are. It will help you in the long run. Knowing the culture or the whys of your unit is super important. You want to know what the general purpose of your PTA is. What kind of attracts people to join your unit? You want to know about just the different things that people in your area are interested in doing. You want to know what grabs them to get involved, because that will help you as you try to grab people to help with committees and other events that you're doing, or to serve as officers in following years. The next bullet point, I cannot stress enough. You want to turn over all passwords. So that's your Facebook account if you have one, that's your Instagram account, that's your unit specific Gmail. I know so many times, it'll get to October in my home unit and people just don't have access to the email. They'll finally log in and there's 50 emails from parents that want to get involved. So really, when you're doing this, make sure that everyone has access to those key accounts so you keep people interested in what you're doing as a PTA. And that's the next bullet point as well. If you don't have a unit specific email, I highly, highly suggest that you do. It helps with continuity. We have one which is our unit name at gmail.com, and we hand it over year to year. And so we can search for fundraisers that we've done, previous account holders that we've had. We can search for bank statements. We can search for all kinds of communication. We can even search for baby pictures, which is something that we do for our 6th grade friends. We have all kinds of access to things and information, and super important, we have contacts in there. So we have people that reach out to us year to year who want to be involved in PTA, and we save their contact information so that we can continue to utilize them as wonderful resources. Patty, thank you.
Thanks for that, Nicole. And just wanted to mention too about our Member Hub system, which is an email-based system. So when you are registering your officers, please do not use that generic email address that you're using for all of your unit information, because then the transition is more difficult, because the president has president things in there that probably don't, if that's who used the generic email, we can't separate it out. So please keep your personal or your email address that you've created for you personally as the officer when you register on Member Hub. And Nicole, I think you want to share some more things with us about the first executive committee meeting.
Absolutely. So that first executive committee meeting, you want to schedule it in July or August. It's a good time. We typically, we'll go out to dinner and do this when we transition out around here, but Zoom is also fine. At this meeting, you really want to make sure that you figure out who's going to be a signer on your bank account, and have your treasurer contact your financial institution to figure out what they need. Some financial institutions require meeting minutes, and they require you to go to the bank together and get all of this done. I have a curious dog. I'm very sorry for the noise in the background. At this meeting in July or August, you're going to want to set your calendar. So you're going to talk about what your busy season is, what that looks like, what every month looks like if you're going to do monthly events, or if you're going to have presenters come into your school, or if you're going to have fundraisers. You really want to get that laid out so that you know what's coming. You can tell your families and your PTA members what's coming, and you can really kind of plan so that you don't overload September and then do nothing until January. You're going to want to create a budget that makes sense and it utilizes the funds that you have. And you can talk a little bit about your proposed funds from your fundraisers that you are planning to do that year. And you want to begin to appoint your committee chairs. I know that in my homeschool, we often have parents reach out to us over the summer as they begin to get the class list and kind of plan for things. And they're like, hey, I really want to chair the book fair this year. Yes, no problem at all. So what you're going to want to do is gather all of those and start to talk about how to staff some committees and where you have holes and what you need to advertise at your first couple of PTA meetings so that you can grab volunteers and do all of the wonderful things that you do for kids. Patty, thank you.
Thanks. And just a thing about creating the budget, you have the option as, you know, your treasurer, as your elected treasurer, to kind of create the budget with the help of the executive committee. They could be quote unquote the budget committee, or you have the option to have a separate budget committee appointed to do the work. So that's entirely up to you. And then that budget committee would just need to report so that the executive committee can look it over. The calendar and the budget, once they're kind of used as a guide for the executive committee, then you'll want to share those with your board as you move forward to have that first meeting.
Okay, your bylaws. At one of your first executive meetings, you're going to want to take your bylaws and take a look through them, all of the officers, and see if everything that's in there pertains to you. You may find that you want to change the dues. You may find that you want to increase your dues, or you want to have co-presidents or something. So you need to go through that and make your changes. And just make sure you see that because your bylaws are your framework for how you run your PTA. If you need a copy of your bylaws, you should contact your region bylaws chairman. You can go to the bylaws section of the website, and it has a listing of all the bylaws chairman's email addresses. And you just ask them for a copy and they will email it to you. The president and the secretary should have a copy of all the current bylaws because the president needs to know everything that's going on, and the secretary does also. But I found as a unit treasurer, I also needed a copy of it just to know what was going on. So it should be good to have all the officers have a copy of it. Let's see. Bylaws must be updated every 3 years. And if you see something that you need to change, you should go through the amendment process, which is on the bylaws part of the website. And only the areas that are listed in the bylaws wizard when you do your update can be changed. It's the framework. Nothing specific to your unit should be in your procedures. And there is a webinar on how to do bylaws and procedures. Anybody have anything to add? Nope. Okay. And I'm going on for the membership campaign. We should start planning your membership campaign in June and July. You should check your member hub page, the unit information page. It'll if you scroll down, it'll have your goal for how many members you should have that year. You should start asking for people to join at the orientations that you hold in the summer and all the summer events. And then at the Meet the Teachers, you should reach out to all of the last year's members by email or calls. And on the membership website has all kinds of information and resources. There's a membership toolkit that has graphics and Canva templates, flyers, has the little thermometer as we see there. You can contact your region membership chair for any information or inspiration or anything that you need. Unfortunately, there isn't a listing of who the membership chairs are on the website, but if you contact your region director, they can direct you to the membership chair.
So I'm going to talk to you about meeting with administration, which I don't know about all of you, but sometimes when I'm called to the principal's office, I'm brought back to 5th grade. So, but typically these meetings are super positive. You want to go in there and share your calendar because you never know what your building administration has planned for your kids' school building. So you want to make sure that you don't schedule over something. The example that I gave to Patty earlier was that we are very fortunate that the Ride for Missing Children goes by my child's school. So our principal, knows that creates a lot of excitement for the kiddos. So she says, please avoid using doing anything in that week because the kiddos are just too excited about that outside event coming in that we really just cannot add to that. They're already distracted enough. So you want to share your calendar, your ideas for fundraisers, for programming, for give backs to the students, things that you want to do. And you want to review all of the plans that you have. For example, if you have a couple of presenters that you are trying to choose between, your administrator can tell you, this topic seems to be very salient this year, so let's go with this presenter. And again, it helps you just partner with the school and, create and build and maintain that relationship. And you want to do that because it not only helps your PTA run smoothly, but it also helps to get the word out about what your PTA is doing. When you include your building administration and people, key people in the school, teachers, teacher representatives, they are much more likely to want to share all of the wonderful things that you're doing with your members and with people who are not yet members. So this is like something that is super, super important, and I hope that you are all able to do. Patty, thank you.
Nicole, I wanted to just add to that. You also, on the other side, you want to also, have a seat at the table for, which I know that you would want to include, for discussions of advocating. So you, all of us want to be there to advocate for our kids and make sure that we are included in committees that are, at the school and on district level.
That's such an excellent point. I always admire your advocacy, so thank you for bringing that up. That's something that I actually am very interested in and I had forgotten, so thank you so much.
Okay. This part of the resource is called the 30-point unit checklist. It's located at this link here, and it is just a checklist of different things that you should be looking at to end your year and start off your year. And it takes out the finer points from each part of the resource guide. The PTA basics, president's guide, the PTA board, finance and insurance, membership, bylaws, advocacy, school and community, and the programs. You can just check off everything that you need to look at.
Thanks, Sherry. Yeah, we really feel that this tool is a great thing for you as an executive committee or even your board to all just kind of go through and measure where you are and what areas you may need a little extra help with or a little more focus. And again, please use this in conjunction with the resource guide, which we're going to share some further resources with you all as we close. Our New York State PTA resource guide, the link is here and it can be found on our website along with the current leadership webinars and workshops. As you know, this one is being recorded and will be posted shortly. We do have two Facebook groups that we encourage everybody to join in on, one on diversity, inclusion, and outreach, and one for New York State PTA leaders. These pages are for you as much as they are for us, so you can pose questions, share ideas, answer other people's questions, and those types of things. So we encourage everybody to have active participation there. They're both closed groups. National PTA will be updating their local leader kit, and I strongly urge everybody to register for that once it's announced. We will probably be sharing that as well as a reminder to look for it. They offer e-learning on how to run your PTA through National, and you get like a nice certificate at the end when you take the course. And then finally, your region director and the region board are your number one resource for everything that you need to know for PTA. And if you don't know who your region director is, we do have that contact information on the website under contacts. It shows a map of where all the counties are, and you can find where you belong, and then your region director from there. And that is the end of our presentation. We wanted to try to save as much time as we can with you tonight for questions. But as you see here, and I guess we could all put our emails in the chat box or somewhere along the line, but these are our contact information. If we said something tonight that you needed more information about or wanted to ask a further question, feel free to reach out to any of us. Even if Nicole isn't or Beth is not your region director, they can help answer questions. And if not, then they would be probably happy to direct you to your region director. So we can share all of that information, as well as Jerry, who's an experienced field person, and myself. So we're happy to answer questions in the future. But now I think that I'm going to stop the share, and Jackie's going to help us with the questions.
Okay,
Jackie,
Patty.
yes.
Yeah, Patty, one thing you mentioned about the member hub and generic email. There was a question about, I missed it here. Could you go over why we can't use a generic PTA email such as ptapresident@gmail.com
Okay.
for member hub with your name?
No, you can do that. It's the one that would be like, I'm just going to use mine because it's just easier. Like if I was saying Maple West Elementary PTA, and that's the one all officers have access to. So Maple West Elementary PTA @gmail.com. We're going to share the login to all of our officers so they can all be checking it. That's the one we don't want you to use to attach to an individual's name on Member Hub. Does that make sense?
Okay, another question about would it be beneficial for everyone on the executive board to have a copy of bylaws? It was stated that the president and secretary should, but of course, everyone on the executive board should have a copy. I think what Jerry was saying is that at a meeting, there should be at least 2 copies available for anybody if there's any questions. But of course, everyone is entitled on the executive board to have a copy of the bylaws and should have a copy of the bylaws.
Yes, each officer should have their own copy because there may be something that the treasurer needs to look at instead of having to find the other officer. They all have a copy right in their folder for everything. And then also at each meeting, you need to have a copy so that any member can look through.
Question about the insurance. What was the new amount of insurance for directors and officers? It was increased, but I missed the number.
So it will be $1 million for each unit. We'll have $1 million in coverage. And so the new premium, if that's what you're asking, is going to be $350 for your first building. If you have additional buildings, which currently we're $100, they'll now be $120. In case we have units that have 2, 3, 4 buildings. So.
Is there a generic planning template for planning for the year? Not sure what that question.
I don't have one. But it's a great idea that we can certainly put in our to-do list. That could probably fall under leadership development as much as it could fall under the field. Maybe that's a group project for us. Yeah, the way I do it is I just make a box, a sheet of paper with all the months on it, and then we just sort of fill things in. But I think it's a great idea to maybe come up with something, and we can maybe already pre-populate it with some of the common dates. New York State Convention in November and Founders Day in February. So I like the idea, and I don't know if National ever had one of those. in their toolkit, but I'm writing that down for a project. So
I
thank
got
you
that
for the
written down
idea.
too, Patty.
Say that again?
I just wrote that down for you.
Oh, thanks.
Here's one. I may have missed this, but are there any end of year awards that we must give out, and where can we get them? I'll make a pitch for this. Our next webinar in May is going to be on programs and awards. So you'll find out everything you need to know on programs and awards. But if anyone else has a comment on that.
No, there's none that are required, but we certainly think it's important that you recognize your volunteers in any way. And they don't have to be New York State awards, just a certificate that you create and to say, thank you for being a great volunteer for our PTA this year can go a very long way. I think it's important that people see that we are recognizing those that contribute to our association. But again, there's none that are required, but we certainly encourage everybody to listen to next month's webinar or to check out the pages there. There are some great awards and they do carry a certain amount of prestige, if I can say that.
Another treasurer question. When creating a budget, using the prior year's budget is helpful, but I feel like we'll be able to do more this year. As new president, can we ask for more than the previous year if it's available?
Yes, so what we consider the method of budgeting for PTA is to go through all of your plans for the year and make your best estimate of your expenses of everything that you're going to need. And once you have that total, then you plan how you're going to get those funds, either through using carryover funds from the previous year or fundraisers or some combination thereof. So again, it's most important that you have the best detail to share on your budget with what your expenses are going to be so that you can share that with your members when they approve it. And again, they would also approve the fundraisers. So as long as you can justify your expenses, you should be able to justify the funds that you're looking for.
I don't see any other questions. Are there any other questions or comments anyone has? What if you
Patty,
make?
there's one question that came in before the webinar. And the question was, what should be in the president's binder? But let me add to that. I mean, should it really be a binder nowadays? And so I'll ask also about the retention period. And now with electronic media, is that a different method? What would you suggest?
I thought we were going to have a group answer for that one. So President's binder, yes, we encourage a certain amount has to be in paper, right? Like we just talked about, like the president should have a binder with the bylaws in it. They should have a copy of the budget so that they're at a meeting and they may need to access these things. So key documents, yes, should be, and a treasurer and secretary, everybody should have a binder. The secretary and the treasurer should both have copies of the letter of determination, which is your nonprofit status confirmation letter. The treasurer should have a copy of the insurance certificate. So all of those things, like there are a certain amount that have to be on paper, but we are certainly encouraging with the tools available to us today that the binders be on an electronic basis, either like a Google Drive, which seems to be the most popular of all. Dropbox, other cloud-based services, whatever works for your unit. You can certainly store documents on Member Hub as well. So I think it's going to be a balance now. The president's binder is going to have some things in it that you need essentially when you're meeting live with people, and then the rest can be stored. As far as retention of documents goes, there is a list in the resource guide in the finance section of your retention years for things. So I encourage everybody to look at that. Those retention years are set up by the IRS as part of 501c3 regulations.
And I just want to add that for the treasurer, you need to have all of your receipts in paper form because you need to pass all that paper onto your audit committee to go through everything. And you need to keep the paper. Once you hit that 8th year, throw away that last year, the first year that you were saving. But you need to keep all the receipts for 7 years per the IRS.
Another treasurer question. What if you make more money for the year than you budgeted? You have a
Good
good.
for you.
Yes.
That is a
So,
good thing.
it's our intention, we are a year-long association, right? Our membership is for a year. All our activities and planning, our fiscal year is a year. So it's our intention that we do try to keep things in a year. So if early on in the year, you realize you have raised more funds than you're probably going to need, you can certainly either adjust your schedule and either cancel a fundraiser or turn a fundraiser into a fundraiser. So in other words, you do it at cost rather than raising money. So those are options there. We have the opportunity to carry over some funds. We don't recommend a high amount of carryover. The guidance that I like to offer is what you need from July 1 to your very first fundraiser is the amount of money you should carry over. But if you do wind up at the end of the year with extra funds, it will just be useful that you don't have as many fundraisers in the upcoming year. And I'm sure your community will appreciate that.
And another important question, how do you get a letter of determination for your unit?
So everybody received their letter of determination upon charter. It came shortly after we applied to the IRS on each of our units' behalf to receive this letter. It came to the school address. And so we have learned over the years that sometimes it came to the school, but it never made it to the PTA. So we can provide a copy of that as long as you are in good standing. So if you don't have that letter that states that you are a 501c3 association, and most replacement letters are 2 pages, the original letter was 1. Your replacement letter is 2 pages. If you don't have either one of those, you can reach out to your region director to request it. They'll pass that request on to the state office and we will get that out to you. It will be electronic, so it goes very quickly.
Okay, Rob, I'll send it to you for our final remarks.
There's one more question and then we'll close it. Can the transition begin after elections? So do you have to wait till July 1st?
I think that the transition can begin directly after elections. You want to make sure that you're having these conversations. I think we presented this as like having like a meeting, you know what I mean? And then it's kind of like done. But I think transition lasts a little longer than that because you want to, at least myself as a prior officer, you want to make yourself available for any questions that come up for your unit. And I think that it's a little bit of a process to, make this kind of work with your new executive team. So that's just what I would add for that.
Thanks. I agree. So PTA is, like everybody says, it's a year-long event and you kind of budget throughout the year. So there's really no downtime between, the elections of the new officers and the transition period for the beginning officers as well. And then if we think about leadership development, there's always that succession path, right? That you're kind of bringing everybody along to take on new roles as well and take over your role, the treasurer, the president, and so that they can have a continuous path and there's some lineage and frequency there. So thank you again. This was great. There's a lot of information here. I love the 30-point list because it kind of gives you a framework of where to start and check off as you go through the year. Also with the transitions, again, bylaws are critical as well. So again, a wealth of information. So we really appreciate our guests, Jerry, Nicole, Beth, and Patty. Again, you're troopers and true PTAs. Thank you for all the knowledge that you provided. Welcome everybody. Again, visit those links. We do have a lot of webinars, and again, all the convention events on the convention webinars are also posted in the New York State PTA website. And as always, everybody in the New York State PTA is available. So if you have any questions in any particular area, you can go to your councils or through your region directors or contact us directly. So again, thank you again for taking the time this evening to join us for this webinar. And I wish you all a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Night.